When we're in that intimate experience, we want the blood flow to go mainly to the pelvis area, the genitals area. That's where we feel the most arousal. But when the fight or flight response kicks in, as you say, when the lion is chasing us, that fight or flight response is wired into us primitively for survival. But when that's happening when we're in the bedroom with a partner, and subconsciously our primitive brain is believing that there's a lion chasing us, our blood flow is going to go to the arms and to the legs to fight or flight.
That's it.
Evolutionary.
Yep.
We're going to have to get out of that situation because our lives, our survival is on the table. So when we're in that fight or flight, the anxiety producing situation in the bedroom, it's going to be very hard for the blood to go to the places that we want it to.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good day. This is Conor with the Unplugged podcast number 74. Callum is celebrating his wedding anniversary, so it's myself today with a good friend of ours and someone who will be talking about often the unspoken taboo topics in men's circles, and that is our good friend Cathal Fahey. And Cathal is an expert in men's performance issues in the bedroom, primarily around ED, and for guys who want to last longer. Welcome to the podcast, Cathal.
Hey Conor, how's it going? Really happy to be here.
Excellent. We are stoked that you're here, and I think this is really a topic that is, I said it in the intro, is often not spoken about. I think there's a lot of, and this is my own mind read, but shame, guilt, ego, failure, lack of success. There's probably a whole stigma around why it's not spoken about, and the statistics are mind-blowing in terms of how many people it affects, yet it's still not spoken about. Most other issues that if there was to affect a large proportion of the population would be spoken about, but this one seems to, and most are, by the way. We're quite progressive in society now to talk about anything. This one is still sort of hasn't yet reached bubbling point when it comes to people freely talking about it or openly talking about it. So welcome to the podcast. And I guess let's kick off with what do you think is the main cause of performance anxiety, primarily around erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation in regards to men in the bedroom? Big question straight off the bat.
Yeah, no, great question. So I suppose we'd like to look at it from a cultural perspective. Number one, there's, as you said in the intro there, there's so much shame and stigma around sex in general, and as men we're just expected. Well, we put this pressure on ourselves that we're supposed to just show up in the bedroom, be hard straight away and be able to do all the things that we're meant to do. But what I'm finding is almost all the guys that I'm working with is that at a certain point in their lives, they might be going through a bit of stress or a bit of grief, or maybe they've broken up from their 20-year marriage and they've found a new partner, and things aren't happening as they used to. And what's happening is overthinking starts to happen, and it's like, what's going on? Is it that I'm getting old? Is there something mechanically wrong with me? Am I broken? And a snowball effect starts to happen. And then the next time around, they're putting more pressure on themselves. Are going to better work now this time? If it doesn't work, then she's going to leave me. She's not going to want me. So it's all this added pressure. And then second time around doesn't work, gets back in the head again. How can I fix this? Maybe go to the doctor, maybe get Viagras. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Because with Viagras, the person needs to be aroused in order for the Viagra to actually amplify the arousal state.
It's like a vasodilation, right? So it just sort of makes you do what you do just better. But if the car isn't turning on in the first place, you can't make any car go faster that isn't moving in the first place, type of thing, right?
Exactly. And it required some specific engines require warming up effectively before they're actually operated. But
yeah, especially those classics.
So yeah,
you gotta get the clutch going, right?
Exactly. It's a great metaphor because the expectation then that a lot of guys put on themselves is that it's like, well, it's not working straight away. Therefore, there's adrenaline releasing into the body, cortisol, and that's in both conducive to the arousal state. And then they're diagnosed with erectile dysfunction. But it's not really a dysfunction, in my opinion. It's a natural response to a stress response.
This is really important. And when you say diagnose, would you say a lot of it is self-diagnosed, or are they actually are men heading to the doctors now and getting the diagnosis? Hey, this is Connor and Callum from Connekt Coaching. Hope you are enjoying the Unplugged podcast. Nothing lights us up more than seeing businesses thrive, especially in uncertain times. We have 32 combined years of doing nothing but mentoring and training businesses from around the globe in order to increase their revenue and thrive in uncertain times. So what we would like to do is share with you a little bit about what we've discovered over the last 32 years.
We've created this amazing business model called the Forever Business Model, and we want to give it to you for free. All you need to do is jump down into the description below. There's a link there called Steal Our Forever Business Model. Click on the link. There's a 9-minute video that you can watch where we unpack everything you need to know to implement it in your business right away.
Most men that I chat to have been to the doctor. Yeah.
Okay.
They're I wouldn't say comfortable to go to the doctor, because it's very uncomfortable for any man to have to go and tell somebody that, you know, he's not working properly downstairs. But when it gets to a stage of distress and they've no other choice, it's like, right, well, this is causing me so much pain in my life. All I need to do is go to the doctor. Hopefully the doctor will fix me and then my life will be back to normal. So most are getting diagnosed, yes. But I'm sure there is definitely a percentage as well that just are a bit confused really about the whole situation.
So you've opened up a couple of interesting topics. So one of them is I mean, let's talk about cortisol and stress and what it does to the body. And you know, from my understanding in the health world about the human body, when your cortisol kicks in, that's basically fight or flight. So when stress goes up, cortisol kicks in, your veins, like the blood changes the circulation through the body or something like that, and the veins constrict so that you can get out of the stressful situation quickly. And I think, I could be wrong here, maybe someone who's watching can assist, but I think when you have high cortisol, your body, what does it do? When you're being chased by a lion, it stores your blood somewhere, and when you're relaxed, it allows it to flow freely around your body.
Yeah.
And I could imagine that if your blood is not flowing freely around your body, then there's not a lot coming out of the tap.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously when we're in that intimate experience, we want the blood flow to go mainly to the pelvis area, the genitals area. That's where we feel the most arousal. But when the fight or flight response kicks in, as you say there, when the lion is chasing us, that fight or flight response is wired into us primitively for survival. But when that's happening when we're in the bedroom with a partner, and subconsciously our brain, our primitive brain, is basically believing that there's a lion chasing us, our blood flow is going to go to the arms and to the legs to fight or flight.
That's it.
Evolutionary.
Yep.
We're going to have to get out of that situation because our lives, our survival is on the table. So when we're in that fight or flight, the anxiety producing situation in the bedroom, it's going to be very hard for the blood to go to the places that we want it to when adrenaline is being released, because it's the chemical at the end of the day that makes our body react a certain way.
Fascinating. Do you think it's a societal, I'm sure we can find some stats that will show that people living in today's society, I can't speak for all societies, but let's just talk about Australian society, on average are more stressed than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So we have probably anxiety or performance-based issues or cortisol pumping through us based on many other reasons. And this is like another one that sort of compounds on an already stressful life that I have. Do you feel that it plays a part in the whole? I mean, I wouldn't. It's not one thing, is it? So it's a lot of moving parts, a lot of variables within someone's life, and if I'm already coming in I'm not boiling yet, but if I'm already coming in on a simmer, it just takes a little bit of extra turning of the dial to get me to boil. But if I'm coming in cold, then my cortisol, it'll take a lot to get my cortisol firing. But if it's already simmering, it won't take it much to put it over the edge. I would imagine, just thinking metaphors.
Yeah. So I definitely would agree that the environments that we live in today, we've never really lived in cities before that have millions and millions of people and so much stimulus. And then we've got jobs on top of that are causing us to have deadlines, whereas that wasn't really a thing in the past. So 100%. And there's so many different elements to it. There's the diet that we have nowadays as well. So much fast food going into our bodies, which was never really the case before. There's
What would the diet do? So if I'm chowing down on McDonald's, if I think eating healthy is eating off the salad menu off McDonald's, how and having a Diet Coke instead of a Coke, and buying orange juice because it has a 4 out of 5 CanStar review, how would that impact me and how my body would work?
Yeah. Well, I suppose number one, it's not natural. Number one, it's there's a lot of synthetic ingredients in there. No matter what we say, Coke Zero. Some people would say it's healthy. I'm not an expert, but at the end of the day, like it's not natural. There's synthetics in there that are causing it to be stronger.
I agree.
But it also, when our diet is not great, along with a stress state, that can also negatively affect our testosterone levels and negatively impacts the way that our body produces testosterone. So it's multi-layered in various ways, but the way I look at it is that we need to take a holistic approach in order to get the person to get to where they want to get to. Because if they're not sleeping right, they're stressed at work, their diet isn't great, potentially they're overweight, they're not exercising.
Oh yeah, weight, of course.
Yeah.
I mean that's not a. It's the ingredients, right? A lot of people are trying to look for the one magic thing. Oh, if I just lose weight, or if I just eat healthy, or if I just take the blue pill, they're looking for the one thing, aren't they?
Yeah, and if the blue pill worked, it really wouldn't be as much of an issue as it is in the society that we live in. But unfortunately, the blue pill doesn't work. I would say, obviously, the percentage that I have, but I would say it definitely doesn't work half the time because there's so many other elements that are preventing the arousal from happening.
Yeah, so the blue pill sort of solves one of the many ingredients that would impact men's performance issues in the bedroom. With I can't help but thinking and making the analogy of a car. Like you have a car, in order to make the car go faster, there's many things you can do. It's not just get better mags. It's not just put better petrol in the car. Petrol will help it go faster if you put unleaded and then you put it. Let's say you're an F1 racing car, and if you don't put the jet fuel or that sort of fuel in the car, surely it's going to have an impact on the engine. But if your spoiler is not aero design, then that will impact the speed of the car. If the driver's overweight, it will impact the speed of the car. If the tires aren't pumped up to the right level, it will impact the speed of the car. So there's so many. I never even thought about it in terms of the number of different factors involved. Would you say that is a big surprise for the clients so men who reach out to you and say, "Look, I've been diagnosed, or I don't need to be diagnosed. I just know that there's something that needs to be improved there." When they reach out to you, are they aware that there are so many moving parts when you take a holistic approach?
Yeah, I definitely hear the phrase, I've never thought of that before, which is, but a big thing I think that people in general, not just males, dealing with this is they don't realize how much the mind has influence on the body as much. And if we're to bring it back to the car analogy, if we're constantly living in our head all our lives, whether it's at work, in the bedroom, then it's like being in the cab of the car trying to fix the engine and not even knowing how to open the bonnet. It's like there's a whole engine, there's a whole system there that we're not addressing, or running around, or we're in the inside of the car looking around, using the steering wheel, using the gear stick, looking at the dashboard. Like, what's going on here? And it's because all that is mentally focused. And what happens, especially when guys are struggling with performance anxiety or any anxiety in general, is they're so disconnected from their body, as in they've just lost touch. The body still works because it's automatic and they don't have to think about it. But when they're asked, well, where do you feel that in the body? It's like, I'm not sure. My head.
So do you think if, and this is just a question that's come, if men, or this particularly men, were more in touch with their feelings, would that make a difference? So less in their head and more in their heart type of thing? Is there a, because the stats, there's more ADHD than ever before. There are more people being diagnosed with autism than ever before, and the spectrum, etc., or neurodivergent, I should say. I mean, people who are neurodivergent are often live in their head. Do you think there's a correlation between that? I'm not saying there's a scientific study or an absolute rule, but do you think there's a correlation between the more time people spend in here, the less time they're connecting out here?
Yeah, well, look, I can only talk from my own personal experience, but the question you asked is definitely something I do wonder about a lot. And I haven't been in somebody's body who is neurodivergent, so I can't really say. But for me, like most of my life up until say 7 or 8 years ago, I was living from here up, and it was not a nice place to be, because to experience joy in life, it's experience in the body. Joy is a feeling. You can't think about joy or you can't think about excitement. It has to be felt in the body. Happiness is felt in the body. When we laugh, it's because the feeling that something externally is producing, it's like it's a body felt sensation. Like the shoulders even move. It's like when we're laughing. So for me, yes, absolutely, it's fundamental. And I know there's a lot of stigma around, guys should be in touch with their feelings, and it's almost more stigma. But no one is ever going to find happiness or joy unless they're able to feel what's going on in their body. And then that includes feeling the uncomfortable stuff as well, feeling the anxiety, feeling the grief sometimes, feeling the guilt. Everyone on the planet has experienced shame from time to time. There's the pros and the cons with it. But if we're constantly living in the head upwards, happiness will never, ever be found.
And do you find that a lot of the guys at work that you work with are like that? Like they lack joy and happiness in their life? Is there a connection there?
I wouldn't say it's not something that comes to the table. I wouldn't say it's something that I would recognize a lot. But the one thing that I do recognize is the disconnection.
Okay, so
yeah.
Irrespective of whether they feel joy, happiness, or even if it comes up, the one trait that they all have is a level of disconnection from them. Is it themselves?
From the body. Yeah. So even bringing it back to what you said there, the heart space. I'm conscious about being too woo-woo about this as well, because if someone told me 10 years ago, there's so much joy and to be experienced in your heart and even around your sacrum, I'd be like, it's all bullshit. But connection is felt from the heart space.
Yeah.
I've had experiences recently and I'm just like, is this even possible to be feeling this? Because in the past I was so disconnected from like this particular experience, and thinking about it was really heartfelt, which is a common, and even when someone says that they broke my heart, it's a body thing. But until we actually allow ourselves to go there, because it's vulnerable to allow ourselves to feel that. Because when we've been younger, we've allowed ourselves to feel it. We've been mocked or someone took the piss out of us, so we learned to suppress those feelings and instead act in a way that we know will be accepted. Versus vulnerability, intimacy, which is into me, you see, is allowing someone to see the real you and actually feel and stay grounded in that. And if they accept that, then great. And if they don't, then that's okay as well.
So tell me about being, so you've mentioned in the past a couple of times how, and you 8 years ago, you just mentioned. So you were living outside of, so this is what got you into this field in the first place, was obviously your personal journey. Can you unpack that a little bit? And by the way, the woo-woo side, anyone who anyone who's sitting in a problem and rejects the woo-woo is okay to hang on to their problem as far as I'm concerned, because what they're doing is not working. You can't keep running the same strategy, expecting a different result, expecting the magic pill, and not actually work on yourself. And if what you're doing is not working, then you, what was Wayne Dyer, I think was the quote, change how you see and the things you see change, or something along those lines. Like, it starts with you, surely. It starts with yourself. And I guess that's probably the first hurdle that most guys would come across, is acceptance of change in a new way that may not conflict, but challenge their model of the world.
Yeah. The other quote that comes to mind for me there is, trying to solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it is the definition of insanity.
Yeah, Einstein, hey?
Yeah, it was Einstein. Yeah. So, and that's another common thing that I see is guys try to think their way out of this situation. It's like, oh, maybe if I'll try this, and maybe just with time it'll get better. But it's not actually accepting the outside help and thinking, right, this might actually be something different that I haven't tried. Because it's uncomfortable to try something new and challenge that belief system that they currently have.
Well, it's uncomfortable to try something new, but it's also uncomfortable to try something that makes you feel embarrassed or less than for even talking about it in the first place. How do you normalize that conversation with the guys that you speak with? How do you break the ice? Like, because I can imagine they're not turning up with the same confidence as if they're buying an iPhone. They're probably turning up with less confidence than if they're buying a tangible item that they are clear of the outcome, or maybe they've had it before. How do you break the ice? How do you help them bring down their guard so they're not so caged about giving information or even talking about it?
Yeah. Well, I suppose telling them about past successes is always a good way to start. But I do find as well, unfortunately, that I won't say most, a lot of guys are still looking for the quick fix, and they're not really willing to spend the time, because the program that I offer is 4 months long. Because
okay, well, that's good to know. It because it's holistic, right?
Yeah. And change doesn't happen overnight or even in a week, especially something that's been happening for years or decades. Some of the guys that I work with, this has been happening for 20 years, and they haven't been able to find a solution. So some are desperate, and they're like, you know what, I don't care, I'm willing to try everything, anything. Others are a bit more, it's been happening this long now, there's not really anything I can do to change it. And again, that's their belief. Unfortunately, that might sometimes be the way they...
Well, it's just a stronger wall. You have to sort of help them break down. They've spent 20 years building a moat around them with this model of the world and this belief that they have. Why? But the presupposition of them even talking with you is that they want help. Why would they even be in your universe talking to someone who can help men's performance issues, and then hang on to it so tightly when you start to explain how they can solve it? That's a bit of that could be a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you know, sometimes there could be a secondary gain from holding on to it. Maybe it avoids vulnerability or avoids intimacy.
Can we unpack that a little bit? What are these secondary gains? Why, for anyone who's listening, why? And maybe because the idea of this podcast was to well, Cal and I wanted to bring you in, talk to you, and make it more acceptable for guys to talk about. They don't have to put it on their Facebook wall and say what they're doing, but around other men, it's sort of like, what are the stats? Offline, we were talking about some sort of stats. What was that?
Yeah, well, the official stats are about 25% of men suffer from it continuously throughout their lives. Now, there is other statistics that's, I think it's 50% of men will experience it at one point in their lives. However, I have a men's group, and we meet up every Sunday. And I brought it up when I started this new page, Intimacy Rewired. And I brought up the fact that I was starting it, and, you know, there was a lot of reluctance and resistance around it, because for me, like, I'll be honest, like, there is still even somewhat, it's like, should I be talking about this? There's still a stigma. So it's still, but I think there was 10 lads at the group that day, And 9 out of the 10 lads said they had experienced performance issues at some point in their lives, and some of them were going through it at that particular time.
Yeah. Could you see their face soften when they were able to talk about something that they've probably been hanging on to alone for however many years? Was there like a sense of relief in a way? I mean,
It was a really powerful morning that morning. Yeah, it was just like, because I didn't even plan on going that morning and talking about it, but it just happened that it came up in conversation, and then it just opened up everything. My plan was, let's talk about this. We ended up talking about the new venture, the Intimacy Rewired, and then everyone had something to share. So I walked away from that feeling really, really empowered and knowing that I was on the right journey, because so many guys are suffering in silence from this.
you've mentioned a number of times guys are in their head. What are they saying? And is this in the act? They're in their heads?
Yes, definitely.
And what do they say? Like, is it just like, are they having a conversation? Are they thinking about the footy? Like, what are they? What's going on up there?
Yeah, so there's a lot of analyzing and monitoring the quality of the erection, let's say, and say, depending on what the person's expectations are, if a man has the expectation that he's meant to be hard like straight away and he's not, then it's like, shit, what's going on? Not hard enough. What's she thinking? Is she going to be disappointed? A lot of internal dialogue. And yeah, like, I suppose what I say to guys, that if it's they're in a situation where it doesn't happen, like, number one, communication is key, because if they don't explain to their partner that happens to them sometimes, and quite a bit, then the partner is normally blaming herself, saying that she's not attractive, or that the man isn't
this is
attracted to her.
interesting.
Yeah, that the man isn't attracted to her. And then you've got two people in their heads. So as opposed to, one person having the performance issues at the start, then you've got the girl who's like, oh, well, I don't want to see him again because he's not attracted to me. But because the conversation hasn't been had, the guy walks away thinking, she doesn't want to see me again because I didn't perform.
It's like magnets just turning around and going away without actually realizing. You said communication. Communication is key there. I never even thought about that. Yeah. So the guy's in his head saying, I failed, and the girl's walking away saying, I failed, and then they carry that into the next relationship probably, as a projection. Oh, I hope it doesn't happen again.
And both of them haven't got the full story. Both of them are thinking that the other person didn't like them, when if the conversation was had. So I actually had a conversation with the girl probably about 10 years ago. I was seeing her. She lived in a different state, so we used to, we were seeing each other for 6 months. But then I would build up a lot of anxiety every time I'd be going there, and it was just sex focused, as in, like, I have to perform, otherwise she's going to not like me or whatever it is. So I flew over anyways, and we were getting intimate, and it wasn't working for me. So I just said to her, I said, look, sometimes I have these issues. It's nothing to do with you. And up until this point, I'd never had the conversation. I just kind of just fobbed it off and said, oh, it was the drink, or it might be whatever, drugs.
Yeah.
And when I said it to her, she was so grateful. And she said, thank you so much for telling me that. I like you even more now. And I was like, that's like just completely baffled me, because I was like, I was expecting
what a great positive reinforcement for doing something. So you were ultra vulnerable, yet you got massive positive reinforcement as a result of that. That would
as a result of that
wonders for you.
reinforcement, then I actually felt more relaxed. I was like, oh, she's not judging me. She's actually okay with it. And as a result of that, because I felt more relaxed, then naturally things started to happen, and we had a great time together. But if I hadn't had the conversation, and she said that she was in her head, she was blaming herself before I had told her. So if I hadn't had the conversation and we just didn't have a good time, we'd probably never see each other again.
Wow. And credit, I love that, because you put your heart on the plate, and you had a really highly positive kinesthetic reward for that, and honesty won in the end. With the guys that you see, are they in partnership? Are they single? Is there a trend? Is it just 50-50? There's no correlation there.
Yeah, so they're 50-50 in relation to if they're in a relationship or not in a relationship. The age ranges diverse massively, like
Okay.
guys from their 20s up until the guys in their 60s. There doesn't really seem to be a trend there at all. Maybe if I was to say, if there was, maybe 60% of guys would be between 40 and 60 and 40% of guys would be between 20 and 40. That's a rough estimate, but it doesn't really discriminate.
Okay.
And it is tougher for guys that aren't in relationships, because when they are going to test it, let's say, it's with a new partner. So no matter who you are and you're with a new partner, it's always going to be a bit like, bit of nerves. What do they like? What do they not like?
Correct. They're almost half simmering in the cortisol is almost half simmering.
Yeah.
Because it's a new person. You haven't decided. She hasn't decided. He hasn't decided if they like each other yet. So there's all these other expectations.
Yeah.
On top of it. Okay.
So that's a challenging situation, and yeah, it can take a bit longer to work with guys than that haven't got into a partner to practice with, basically.
Practice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a niche. Practice groups.
Big orgies.
Role playing. All right, that's a joke. Maybe. So what do you think the long-term consequences of not addressing it? Like what happens long-term for these guys who just sort of don't do anything about it?
Yeah, well, guys that suffer with this generally they've intertwined with their sense of self. It's like, I'm not a man, I'm broken. Like, all this negative self-talk tends to go on up in the head. It affects so many areas of life. I was chatting to a guy the other day, and he was saying, as soon as he wakes up in the morning, it's the first thought in his mind. And he's driving to work, it's on his mind. When he's at work, it's less on his mind because he's busy, but on the way home leaving, he's like, what's wrong with me? I am fucked. I'm broken. So it really negatively affects guys' mental health, affects their relationships. And I remember when I was probably about 16, 17, there was a guy, and I was really in the midst of it now at this point. There was a guy from a local town near mine back in Ireland, and he committed suicide. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm not surprised if he had the same thing as me, because the suffering that I'm going through because of this, I'm not surprised that guys will be killing themselves. And I genuinely think that so much male suicide could be as a result of this, because if they go to who they're supposed to go to, they go to the doctor can't do anything, they go to a psychologist, they go to therapy, they've tried all these quick tips and tricks online, and nothing's working, and they're berating themselves because of it. I really wouldn't be surprised if guys are left thinking that there's no other way out.
I was listening to a podcast this morning, and it was an American podcast, and if you look in the morgues, this is what the professor said. If you look in the morgues and you look at who commits suicide, 4 out of 5 are men, and we are our worst. Most people beat ourselves up more than anyone else will. There's a quote: the biggest critic will always be in our own mind, or something along those lines. I think it was a Socrates one.
You can be your best friend or your worst enemy in your mind.
Yeah, and it's so true. So long-term consequences of this is just berating yourself all day, which, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for anyone who knows and understands perception is projection, essentially what we notice and what we see in the world outside of us starts from within us. And if we think that everyone is laughing at us, then we got to look at ourselves first. Where are we laughing at ourselves in our own life first? Where are we uncomfortable? Where are we insecure that we're even projecting that out?
Yeah.
And I guess Robert Fleck, I did a reel on this the other month, the SCAR experiment. So Robert Fleck was a psychologist in the US in the 70s or 80s, and he had a control group of people, And what they did is that he had makeup artists draw scars on their faces. And the idea of the study was for normal people to experience the judgment, experience the effects that people with scars on their face have in society, feeling less than, the judgment, the criticism. So in this experiment, Robert and his team, they had a control group or volunteers, and they drew scars on their faces to make them look realistic. When the group was about to leave the office, the makeup people said, "I'm just going to touch up your scar." And what they did is they actually rubbed the scar off. So they pretended to touch it off, but they actually rubbed it off. So these people went out and did everyday things in society, like go shopping, they applied for jobs, things like that. Nearly all of them came back and said, "I felt that I was judged as a result of having my scar. I felt that I was treated differently and stared at as a result of having my scar." Yet no one had a scar. So all of their projections, all of the story they were telling in their own head was based on a fallacy that they had a scar, and they actually didn't, yet they identified as someone who did. And therefore, any situation when they were looking out for people to look at them so that because they already felt like they were going to be judged. So they went out and found it. So the study concluded with that in situations, in neutral situations. So obviously, if someone walks up and says, "Hey, you've got a scar and that looks ridiculous," obviously that is not a neutral situation. So the study concluded in neutral situations, the people who felt they had scars acted as if everyone was judging them and mocking them without actually saying a word. They took those 50-50 situations and made judgment based on their own perception of what was happening outside.
Yeah.
And so coming back to the men beating themselves up every single day about this, they will be going into every single conversation, probably and this would impact other areas of their life. I'm no good in the bedroom, therefore I'm no good with the lads out the pub. I'm no good in my career, and it would create situations where they would view what people were saying and how they were looking at them as confirmation that they have an issue or they're no good. And that compound 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, that's a heavy load to bear. It's a heavy load to carry.
Yeah. It starts off small, and the metaphor that comes to mind is like just water dripping on a rock. Like at the start, it can, if it's nipped in the bud straight away, then it's fine. But over time, that the water dripping on the rock can completely reshape the rock. And
you know what? How I like to share videos with the coaching that we do. I like to share videos, and there's this one that I saw recently, and it's there's a professor at the front of a room, and he gets a glass. Well, this is a cup, but he gets a glass, and he pours it, and he fills it full of water, and he says to the class, "Everyone, how heavy do you think this glass is?" And someone says 8 ounces, 16 ounces, 20 ounces. And he says, "It really doesn't matter the weight of this glass. What matters is how long I hold it for. If I hold this glass for 1 minute, nothing will happen. If I hold it for an hour, my arm will start to feel tired. If I hold it for 24 hours, my arm will feel like it's going to fall off." This is what we do with stress. Sometimes we need to learn to just put it down. And for me, that was like such a great way to explain it and to show what we do. I'm the same. I hang on, we all do it. But these little reminders remind us that we have empowerment. We have choice. We have choice. That's probably the biggest thing. I don't know if I'm on my own here, but that's probably one of the biggest reasons people hang on to whatever they hang on to, is because they forget that they have choice. They forget that if they want to, they can do something about it. And and it starts with taking action and talking to people like yourself.
Yeah. And just back to the scarers experiment that you said, a huge light bulb moment for me throughout my journey was it's never ever the other person's judgment, unless, like you said, someone comes up and says you were a ridiculous cigar in your face.
Yes.
99.9% of the time, it's our own judgment. So it's the quote is I heard before. It's not what you think of me; it's what I think you think of me.
That's
So
exactly right.
it's always self-judgment, and a lot of people think that they don't judge themselves. But if they're worrying about other people's judgment, that is self-judgment because the other person isn't judging.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I don't judge myself, but it's everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
One of our mentors, Tad, would always say, whenever you're pointing one finger out, there's always three fingers pointing back at you. And that's a bitter pill for some people to swallow, because they're so unaware. And this is, I guess, why personal growth, I mean, Cal and I are obviously we've been in this field for a very, very long time, and nothing happens unless there is some form of acknowledgement. Nothing can happen. So what advice would you give to guys who are silently, like you said 1 in 4 have this issue long term. I know 1 in 4 absolutely don't do something about it. What could you say to the guys who are watching, or partners of guys who are watching, who they do have it, but they're afraid, or they feel shame or guilt or judging themselves for in their head not being man enough to as you said, to perform the way that they want to? What would you say to them if you had an opportunity to have a microphone and just sort of share some words with them? What would you say to them in order to?
Yeah. Well, bringing it back to the metaphor with the water and the rock, as long as that negative self-judgment is dripping on top of you and reshaping your whole sense of yourself, over time, that is going to have negative experiences.
Mm.
So try something new. Reach out to me, Intimacy Rewired on Instagram. I know most guys, in fairness, most guys will have tried something before and may not have worked, because I went through a lot of different counselors, therapists, coaches over the years. I spent thousands of dollars, and I won't say nothing worked. Like, I suppose it compounded over time, and eventually I figured out what was going on. But I had to go through that, and the pain was just so intense for me. It was like, I don't care. I'll spend 20,000 as long as someone can help me. So don't give up. Don't just resign yourself and say, this is it, I'm screwed for life. Keep searching for answers. Reach out to me. I offer a one-to-one pre-call. You don't need to sign up, even just to get some understanding of it yourself, because that alone can be powerful.
The metaphor I'm thinking, like taking a Viagra, is like putting more petrol. I'm thinking about my metaphor as a metaphor man with a Formula One car, or any car. Let's say you have a V8, and the more petrol. So Viagra is like putting more petrol in the car. But if all the pipes heading to the engine and the pistons have zip ties around them, and none of that fuel's actually getting into the engine, then it doesn't matter how you can fill up that gas tank all you want. None of it's actually reaching the engine, the area that needs it. So I guess what you're saying is that in order to release that blood flow and let it flow naturally, you need to be out of your head and start feeling yourself. And if you're not doing that, and you don't know how to do that, then it's going to be quite a challenging uphill battle for a very long time, and until you do.
Yeah. And the zip ties was a good analogy that you said there as well, because there's so much tension in most human bodies that unless you're doing a lot of meditation or a lot of qigong or yoga or something, where we're unaware of it. And the tension that's built up in the body that 99% of people can't actually feel, they don't know there's tension there, is the zip ties that you're talking about that are preventing the petrol from going. So until we can work with that stress and tension in the body, then the pipes are going to stay squeezed. And it's only when you're sleeping or when you're relaxed that the erection can happen then.
Yeah,
because
because often men wake up in the morning, right? And it's like, it's just there.
yeah,
And I guess they're chilled out. They're relaxed.
exactly.
They're asleep.
There was no thinking and worst case scenario happening in mind, so that the body naturally felt safe to express itself. But when they're feeling in a threat, the ziplock's tight.
So is this like, I mean, I'm not an expert on Tantra or tantric experiences or anything like that. But from the very basic information I know, it's like tantric is meant to sort of have both partners sort of last for ages. And it's almost like yoga in a way. In the sense of how relaxed everyone, when you think of tantric experiences, you don't think high stress at all. You think, like chilled out to the max, candles, flowing water, hear, sounds in the background and something, forest sounds or whatever. That makes perfect sense then, because tantric experiences are meant to be 30, 40, 50 hours. I'm not an expert in it, like I said. So
I
in
think
order to achieve
Tantra
that,
does. A lot of people think that Tantra is that, and it is a part of it, but more so, it's not reaching and striving to the goal, which is orgasm, because generally speaking, that's what most people strive for in sex. It's like, right, well, if we both orgasm, then we're done. So the point, the point of it is like, right, get to that point, then we're done. Versus Tantra is more about actually enjoying the sensations in the moment, not actually reaching our orgasm, if there's any orgasm at all. And it's more so about staying present with what's going on in the body, as opposed to having that desired goal.
I've learned something. I've got a question from a viewer. For a lot of men, performance is tied to identity. I agree. When that doesn't happen, what story does a man start telling himself about who he is? This is big. Do you do identity work? Is that part of your program?
Yeah, well, it's definitely it's separating performance from identity, and specifically about what it means to be a man, not being masculine enough, and therefore, if I'm not performing in the bedroom, that means I'm a dud or something's wrong with me. So it's really taken on as it affects the whole sense of self. So it's a massive part of it.
So what story are they telling themselves?
I'm broken.
Okay.
Something is fundamentally wrong with me. I'm flawed. I'm a dud. No one wants me the way I am.
And this is what you hear from your clients. And just coming back to if someone was to work with you, what do you cover in your first session without giving any sort of trade secrets away? How would you start something like this?
Yeah. So first of all, understanding where it's come from. What's happened? Where did it come from? When did it initially start? How did it get to that situation? And 70% of the time, it's, oh, well, I noticed that one day I was having sex and it wasn't that hard, or one day I couldn't have sex. And it starts normally something along those lines, where there was a bad experience, and then all the attention, the thinking mind tries to figure it out. But the thinking mind can't figure out the nervous system and what's going on in the nervous system. It's like trying to understand the Milky way beyond our comprehension, which is why sex is normally something that happens without having to think about it. It's just like, well, I don't know. My body just does what it does. I don't know how it does it.
A smell, a touch, something, and it just goes.
Yeah, until the thinking mind tries to control it.
Too many control freaks in the world, hey?
We're all control freaks. Just to what degree?
Yeah. Brilliant. Cathal, this is a really, really important topic that Cal and I are really, really happy that you were able to come onto the podcast. I know you're busy. I know you're pretty always busy with clients. So I really, really greatly appreciate you coming on and talking about almost the unspoken. I don't, like, when I look around and look at different coaches, I look at different people who are helping, segments of the population. I tell you what, this is one area that I don't see a lot of coaches. I don't see a lot of people putting up their hand to say, I'm here to help men's performance issues in the bedroom, because most of it is, pharmaceuticals selling their pills. And I guess there's nothing wrong. Everyone has a business, but we're sort of like addressing the symptom, not the cause, in a way. Like
100%. Yeah. And even so, I'm noticing that my Instagram page is definitely not getting as much reach as it could. Now, without being cocky, I know what good content is and what bad content is, and I'm doing relatively good content. And it's the algorithm is not doing that its job. It's because it's such a taboo topic.
It's very taboo. Yeah.
Pushed down. So it's harder then for even the guys that are struggling with this to actually find someone who can genuinely help them. So therefore, it just kind of reinforces the systemic approach is medicate, put the Band-Aid on it, and we'll actually look at the root cause. So currently,
it's looking at the symptoms. The problem is there's not enough blood flow going to that area. All right, let's make a pill for blood flow. All right, done.
And if that doesn't work, we give you a pill for anxiety as well, so that the anxiety suppresses your immune system, and then you get the blood flow, and then you're sweet.
I wonder if that would work. A pill for anxiety, pill for blood flow. Then grab
but then what happens? Then what happens is that there's no feeling during. So
there's no intimacy, is there? It's just it's just physical.
Yeah. The physical act is able to. So I know a guy who was prescribed antidepressants for premature ejaculation, and he said,
that sounds normal.
He said it worked, but 2 weeks later he was having thoughts of killing himself. So he was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'd rather have premature ejaculation than wanting to kill myself. But then when he accepted the fact that, I don't want to say he had it because it's not something you can contract, but when he accepted the fact that sometimes it didn't last that long in the bedroom, all of a sudden he started to last longer because he wasn't putting as much pressure on himself. He knew the alternative was get these tablets, think about killing myself. Fuck that. I'd rather just last 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's
then he started lasting 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, that's intense. Well, thank you very much on behalf of men to put your hand up. Stats are that 1 in 4 are experiencing this on a regular basis. If 1 in 4 of any segment of the population was a target for anything, energy drinks, it would be plastered everywhere. But this, I guess it needs to be accepted by general society. I think acceptance from men, particularly because they're the ones who want to work on themselves to overcome any performance issues. And I guess the more we talk about it in an open space, the less taboo it will be. And thank you again for coming. Hey, look, if there's anyone listening, like I said, if there's any men who are listening, if there are any partners of men who are listening who may have this from time to time or full time, how can someone reach out to you? Like, where can someone find you?
Yeah, the best place is Instagram on Intimacy Rewired. I also have a Facebook page with the same.
But Instagram's your main place, and
Instagram.
If someone wants to have a quick half an hour talk to see if it's a good fit, you'll jump on the phone with them. If they have any questions and want to get more clarity, you and your team will be able to connect with them. Just to be sure, you're doing this holistically, and the success that you bring is life-changing. The story, who we identify as is huge. There's countless studies about how successful or not successful someone is in life, or even happy, based on who they identify as, and therefore that creates the boundaries around their constraints, about their possibilities that they have in life. So you're doing amazing work, and if anyone wants to break free of those chains, reach out. So Intimacy Rewired, Intimacy, and then REWIRED. I'm just going to put it in the chat here of the live.
Yeah, sounds good.
right, amazing. Well, Cathal, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure to host you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the step out of, I'm sure, your comfort zone to begin with, but helping so many other men taking a step out of their comfort zone in order to make an impact in their life. And we're all about making a difference and letting people know that the future is bright. So it is very bright. Take action. And thank you again.
No worries, man. Thanks to yourself and Callum and Connekt Coaching for having me on. And I'm loving working with you guys, and I'm looking forward to any month ahead.
Likewise, my man. I'll see you soon. Thank you very much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Thank you very much for watching the Unplugged podcast with Callum and Conor from Connekt Coaching. Hope you loved this guest this week as much as we did. Cal?
What we wanted to remind you of is that if you wanted to steal our forever business model, which is perfect for all sorts of businesses around the world to start to build extra revenue in your business right away, get instant access by clicking on the description and going into the link below, watching the 9-minute video where we unpack everything. See you next time.